Alright guys, it's time for VLookup. Now don't be overwhelmed, VLookup is actually pretty straightforward, but it can be combined with other formulas in some pretty confusing ways. But I'm going to give you guys the very simple introduction of what VLookup is. And once again, as per usual, we're going to start by setting up some drop-down options in our back end. And so this is going to be two options that are going to be helpful for your VLookup. And so it could be anything, but in this example, we're going to use some fruit again. So we're going to have item and the cost of the item. And for this training course, I want you to put them next to one another. Now this cost could actually be somewhere else, but it makes more sense here if you put them next to each other. And you'll see why in a minute. Now you can just go ahead and type your options in, right? Your different fruits over here, and give them a price. And so I've just used these prices, for example, and then you can go ahead and set this column to dollars, and that's all you need to do to begin with. So we've got item and the cost, okay? So this could be very useful for a budget. This could be useful for ticketing if you have different prices for different priced tickets for different audiences, or there's all sorts of uses of this kind of setup. But you'd put your items in over here, and you put your prices in next to it, or your numbers in next to it. And so now I want you guys to make a new blank sheet and give it the name VLookup. And I'm just going to show you how easy this is to use. So we're just going to go ahead and type item and cost again. In fact, I'm just going to be even easier and just equal item. And I'll drag that over there and equal cost. And so now let's go ahead and give column A a data validation. So data validation, and we're going to set it to that column. And we'll go do G2G so we don't get the first word item as an option. We'll reject the input if it's wrong, and we're done. Let's go back to our VLookup and remove that data validation from the first line there where we don't need it. So we'll remove that validation. And as always, let's go ahead and make our top column a little bit bigger in size, maybe a different font, align it to the center, align it to the middle of the slide, and wrap that text around. Make it stand out a little bit like that. Perfect. So I go ahead and I say, oh, I want some apples, or I want some oranges, or I want some strawberries, or I want some whatever, pineapples. So how do we get this this to automatically pull the cost? Well, we're going to use the formula VLookup. So I'm going to type E equals VLookup, and there it is. And again, you can close or collapse these hints to help you out. So it's giving you these four things. So search key, range, index, and is sorted. And so it's going to end up looking like something like this. So something, a range, here's the thing it's looking for, here's the range where it's looking for it, here's the column number that it's going to return, and then false is going to need to be added to make sure that it's sorted correctly. So search key, what are we looking for? Well, we're looking for whatever we've put in over here. So I'm going to click on A2. So we're looking for A2. Where are we looking for it? This is the range. This is the range to consider for this search. The first column in the range is searched for the key specified in this search key. So only the first column that you're selecting is going to be searched for this key specified here in the last thing that we entered, A2. So we're going to go set our range, and it's going to be this drop down, and we're going to select G to H. And so only G is going to be scanned to look for that option. And then when it finds it, when it says, oh, there's apples, what is it going to return? Is it going to return apples? No. We want it to return the thing to the right of that, to this in the second column here. So you have to consider these as columns, right? G would be column number 1 that we've selected. H would be column number 2 that we've selected. So we're going to type in 2 because we want the result that is shown in column number 2. And then finally, you add false to the end of this just to complete the formula. Press enter. And now we can drag this down, and you'll notice that it's automatically giving us the same search result. So the only thing that's changing is that here it's looking for A2, here it's looking for A3, here it's looking for A4, and that's exactly what we want because this is what's going to change. So now if I change these numbers around, the cost is changing, right? Oranges, pears, grapes. And so you can imagine the uses for something like this. It's super easy. Now, what about these NAs? Now, if these NAs are here and you're using all of this for another chart, these NAs can really complicate your data and they can make it bad. And so you might want these to either be 0 or empty if you don't need them to show up, or if you are having some problems where those NAs are affecting formulas that reference this area. So you guys already know how to do this. We're just going to amend our first formula with an if is blank. So if is blank, and what is blank is going to be A2 again. So if is blank, and that's done. And so if that's true, we want it to be nothing. So we're just going to do those empty quotes. And if it's false, then we want it to do this VLookup formula, right? And so we just need to close that off with 1 and 2 more parentheses, and that's it. And so now we can drag that down. And so now the formula is ready to go, but when there's nothing there, it just returns an empty cell. Okay? And there's another way that you guys should know how to do this by now. And so I'm going to go ahead and delete all of that, and we can wrap this whole thing in an array formula. And add 1 more parentheses. Alright, and that is our array formula. And guys, you know the trick for array formulas to get them to go down is to always add this little condition. So we're looking at A2 here. That's what we need that for our formula. So these places that say A2 are great, but we need it to then expand that formula using the array. So we're just going to add in that colon A. So it's looking at A2 and then the rest of A, and here it's doing a VLookup for A2 and then again the rest of A. Everything else stays the same because that's referencing the drop-down sheet, so you don't need to mess with that. And there we go. And so we can just convert that back to dollars by selecting the whole column, doing that. And so now we've got this one formula entered in one place. That array formula wrapper is going to basically automatically send it down if certain conditions are met. And of course, if it's blank, it's not going to do anything, which is the best part. If it's blank, it's just going to stay blank. However, if you go ahead and add some pears down there, you add some strawberries and so on, now you see how this starts to get. And then, of course, we could have like a multiplier. So this is easy. You guys know how to do this. So this would just be equals sum of this times this. Or we don't even need the sum in this case, so it can just be equals this times this. And this goes down, and we can put this in an array formula if we want. So equals array formula, and then it's going to be this times this, and we'll put those in the array format, B2 to B and C2 to C, and don't. And we can get rid of all of that because it can't have anything below it. And as you see, that goes down forever. And if we want it to be in is blank, then we need to add the is blank wrapper. So if is blank, if is blank, this dude over here, come on, let me type it, is blank A2, and again to A, then value if true, return nothing, and value if false is going to be multiplied by so. And so now we just need to add that number in there, and we get our final result. So this is the how many units did we buy. Let's make our totals in dollars again. And so here, if we buy 2 oranges, it becomes 4. And if we change the oranges to grapes, it changes the total price. If we change it to pineapple, everything changes. So I hope that gives you some understanding of the power of VLookup and what you can do. By now, you should be fairly familiar with using array formulas and if is blank, or if formulas, count ifs, sum ifs. Those are all things we've now done. Combining that with the VLookup, you have tons of potential to put lots of things together. I think in the next video, we're going to start taking everything that we've learned and putting it together to create, in our engineering room, a bunch of totals tables that kind of combine all this together. And we will use that to make a dashboard like I showed you at the beginning of the video. All right. So that's going to wrap up our video on VLookup. Hope you guys enjoyed that and learned something new.